The fear is not that the thing will work out. The fear is, what will people think of me when this doesn't work out? When I start running those new ads and they don't work. If I go and hire this person and I've got to fire them 30 days from now. If I go buy the house that I want to live in and I'm worried that someday I won't be able to make the payment and get foreclosed on, what are people going to think of me?
Well, hello and welcome to another amazing guest interview here on the Profit with Love podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and I have a treat for you today. There's somebody who I've been connected with on the internet, Facebook, socials, for a number of years, watching his journey, and just seeing somebody who is successful and a family man. And you all know that family is really big for me. And Adam, I didn't even discuss this in the green room. I have no idea how much you know about my story, but I've got 7 kids. Actually, the day we're recording this is my oldest daughter's birthday, so today's the day I became a dad. Um, and 3 of them are grown and married, and then I've got 4 that are young and here, and I'm doing it all over again. And I'm building my business around creating a life for myself where I can be present for my wife and kids. And I think ultimately a lot of people, when they start their business, it starts with that. And I want to be present for myself. I want to be present for my family. And then it grows from there, because once you achieve that level of success, then what's next? And then, now I want to impact the world positively. I want to make change. And we really want people to dive into that journey. The problem is they start off and they think that business is just the kind of thing that you just go and do like you're doing for somebody else for a paycheck. You're just going to go do that for yourself, and you collect all the money and you keep all the money and you go from there. And they have this rude awakening that's not exactly how it happens, and it doesn't come easy. And a lot of people struggle in that journey. And you just released a book. So our guest today is Adam Williams, founder of, well, he's entrepreneur turned lawyer turned entrepreneur. So he launched the Rust Belt Business Law in 2010, turned it into one of the fastest growing companies in the country, which really I want to hear a little bit more about too. He used his law firm as a platform for new ventures, including Pennywise Tax Strategies, which he launched with his wife in 2023. And I love that. My dream is to get my wife involved in the business. Her dream is to never be involved in the business.
That's the next question. Yeah, you sure those are aligned.
Pennywise helps entrepreneurs make their tax bills more predictable and palatable. Adam additionally works as a speaker, author, and coach, helping entrepreneurs grow businesses that work for them. Um, He's an expert on failure, and I love this one because I talk so much about how success in business requires failure, because we are essentially scientists and we're doing a ton of experiments. And scientists, in order to succeed and have a breakthrough, have to fail a number of times. In 2018, spent $25,000 on cheese for his food truck. And somewhere in Erie, Pennsylvania, there's a warehouse full of board games from an unsuccessful launch in 2016. This leads me to a personal story, which I'll share in a moment. He believes that life is too short to make all the mistakes on your own, and loves sharing the lessons he's learned the hard way. In just a moment, I'm going to bring Adam on, but I mean, that board game story. So my father was a serial solopreneur. So I wouldn't even call him an entrepreneur, because he never was successful at hiring people on. It was always him doing something and trying to be successful at it. And he still does that today. Now he's really successful as an Access database programmer, but he contracts out and gets an hourly amount for his work. But that's it. Like, never grew beyond that. And no judgment. That's just what worked for him. But when I decided to be a business owner, I looked at him and I said, the way he built that, I didn't want to do that. I want to do it differently. However, he did have employees, and they were called his children. And we worked, and it was free labor. So one time he got into this mode where he was doing closeouts, and he would buy a ton of things that somebody didn't want to buy. It was sitting in a warehouse somewhere, and he bought it for pennies on the dollar, and then tried to figure out, why didn't this sell? And how can I turn this around and sell it to somebody, that can actually turn around and move it off their shelves? So he came home with this game called Plutocrat, and we opened the box, and we sat around the table, opened the box. He said, we're going to figure out why this thing didn't sell. We figured it out pretty quickly. There were no instructions.
Hmm.
So you opened the game and you had no idea how to play. It had pieces, it had a board, but there was really no idea. You didn't know what to do. So we sat there and we made up rules and we played a game and we played and played and played for a few days until we developed all the different rules that made it fun. And he wrote a rule book. And then we sat and also when you opened it up, all the pieces were loose. So it
Hmm.
was like pieces all over the place. So you didn't know what end was up. So we sat there zip-locking all the pieces into separate bags, putting the rule book in, and then shrink wrapping the box, and boom, we had a sellable item. Um, he recently gave me a gift. He was cleaning out the house and he had one of these board games and he gave it to me. I have it sitting in storage here as a memento for that experience. But we did all kinds of things. We flower business, gold refining, all out of our basement. So I had quite the experience as a kid growing up, and I think that you and I are going to relate to each other really well. Adam, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. It's a cool story.
So just take a few minutes, tell our audience who you are. I gave you the official bio, but how did you get here? And you're releasing a book or just released a book, and we'll link this up on Amazon for folks to go buy. Everything your kids wish you knew about owning a business. I love the title. I love the concept of the book, but just give us the backstory of your journey and how you got to this book.
Yeah. My parents were entrepreneurs. In fact, my grandparents were entrepreneurs. So I'm like third generation. And that made me pretty much the least employable person on the face of the planet. So I was fortunate coming out of law school. I got my MBA and I just happened to be married to this brilliant young woman who worked for a big four accounting firm and was a really valued employee there. And the only job offer I had getting out of law school was at that firm. And I don't know if it was my credentials and brilliant interviewing or if they just wanted to keep Jackie happy. But I worked in the state and local tax department of a big four accounting firm. I worked there for 366 days because I had to stay a year to keep my signing bonus. And I couldn't imagine we were in Pittsburgh every single day, parking in that garage and hitting that button on the elevator and going up to the 25th floor and walking out to those cubicles. Like I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So moved back home to Erie, Pennsylvania, which is where we live now. I got a clerkship with a judge. And like a lot of my clients, started my practice as a side hustle. And after about 6 months, was making enough money that I could quit the clerkship. And we always grew pretty steadily. Our business, I was a door lawyer at first. I took everything that came in the door, and we've slowly niched down into helping business owners with Rust Belt business law. And our growth was steady and well above average. And then probably about 5 years ago, probably 2018 or 2019, really learned the difference between being self-employed and having a small business and started to throw jet fuel on that fire. So in 2019, Jackie actually quit her job. She had moved on to a big bank and worked in their accounting policy department, but she came on board as our firm's CFO. And we ranked in the law firm 500 a couple of years. We were just announced on the Inc. regionals, so fastest growing companies, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, all the way up to Maine. And then later this year, we'll actually be on the Inc. 5000 list. So we're running. It's all based on a law firm that supports small businesses and entrepreneurs. Except if you go out the front door of my office 2 blocks east, it's the poorest zip code in the country. And statistically, we're the least entrepreneurial city in America. And you talk about your priority, your passion for spending time with your family. I've certainly got that. Another priority and passion for me is showing people that entrepreneurship is the path to freedom. It is the path to success. It's the path to leading the life that you want to live. And if I can do it here, man, like if I wanted my life to be easy, I'd go and do this in Miami. But it's been really fulfilling along that journey. And like you said, with the law firm as the foundation, we've done other stuff. Some things successful, some not so much. So yeah, the socialism board game in 2016, back when presidential elections used to be fun, not a great commercial success. Although we were interviewed on Fox News within like a week of launching, which was a big deal. I can never do that again. Jake and I launched Pennywise. Almost, we're coming up on a year now, and that business is just crushing it right now, helping business owners save on their taxes. The book came out last week, and we made the Amazon bestseller list in the self-employment category. So really, like the hard knocks of growing the law firm, the blood and sweat and tears, the dust on your face from being in the arena, it's all I don't know. You asked me to tell people about myself, and it's like, man, it's never that one thing, and it's never the 50 words you can put under your Instagram, bio. There's so much to it. But yeah, I you nailed it with entrepreneur turned lawyer turned entrepreneur. I think that sums it up pretty well. But I would add the adjective of successful entrepreneur. Our income is really outstanding. Our lifestyle is by design really fantastic, and the impact that we're having on our clients and our community is like excellent also. So that's it. I am a man who lives a fulfilled dream.
That's
That's
awesome.
I just came up with that. I'm going to reuse that again. That was pretty good.
Yeah, we can put it on that mug you're drinking out of. But it'll be the first merchandise in your merch store for your everything your kids wish you knew about owning a business book brand. But I love all of what you shared. But what's missing is, the challenges and where, you talked about being in the arena and getting dust on your face. Um, if you had to look back in your journey and say, okay, like what was the biggest obstacle I overcame, or what was the biggest there's a moment in time at some point, I presume, that things were not all hunky-dory and I feeling like a successful man and putting successful in front of the word entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Going back to that journey, is there something specific you could pinpoint and say this was the most challenging point in my entrepreneurial journey, and this is what I had to face, and this is how I came out of it?
There have been a lot, obviously, and there still are, right? Like to say that problems don't exist now, that would really like we still have struggles, we still have challenges. The difference is my problems now are better, right? I went out to dinner with some friends a couple weeks ago, and they said, "Hey, you made it down here in your Porsche." Yeah, two out of my three Porsches are running right now, right? It's that third one that's broken down, or my pool heater stops working. I still got problems, I still got frustrations, but it's way better than the problems used to be. Um, as far as turning points, my wife and I, again, she's the CPA. So and I've taken intro to accounting 3 times between undergrad and my MBA. I think I got a B minus the last time I took it. I talk about putting deposits in the tuition account, right? Every marketing campaign we launch that falls on its face, that loses us money, we learn something from that. Every bad hire we make, we learn something from that. Every person that I should have fired 6 months before I fired him, I learned something from that. Um, I think for us, the one of the biggest challenges for us was when a bunch of that stuff all happened at once, right? There's always individual problems that you can put out, but we had a moment in August of 2021. So, we're still in the pandemic. Our firm had built a pretty successful employee retention credit business that was growing, that was scaling, and Jackie and I needed a break. So we were going to take like a week off and head up to Maine in our RV with our kids. And I got on the road and 3 employees quit and actually scheduled it so that their last day occurred before we were supposed to get back from the trip, right? So they didn't want to look me in the eye. And we got notice. Basically, half our team left as we were departing on this vacation, and we had to make the decision of, do we turn around and jump in and rescue this, or do we take the break that we know that we need? And we ended up taking the trip, and uh, that was challenging, right? I mean, that was a really rough thing to have so many people leave all at once. Um, and the stress and anxiety that caused, there were certainly a lot of things that we did at that point to get over that. But in hindsight, I am so grateful for that. I'm so glad so many of those people left. They would have never fit with us long term. They weren't great fits back then. So it's always that short-term struggle and that short-term stress and anxiety that in the long term, we're able to look back and say, man, I'm actually pretty grateful that that happened. And I'm grateful for the person that I became because that did happen. So yeah, that was a big turning point for us. But I mean, we're learning stuff every single day with varying degrees of I don't know, convenience or suffering that we continue to make ourselves and our business better.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that you took the trip. You know, this past Sunday, my son went to a football clinic, and he's been playing. He's 8, turning 9, and he's already played 2 seasons of tackle football. So he was just going for the fun of it. But it was a clinic that was trying to recruit new players, and there was a kid going into 5th grade who was out there for the first time, and he was playing, and a kid tackled him and wasn't supposed to. They weren't wearing any gear. It wasn't tackle. It was just a clinic, and he got an elbow in the back, and he got hurt, and but more scared than anything else. And he came off the field, and his mom went to him, and I went down. You know, after she was talking to him for a while, I went down there and I would introduce myself, told him I was a paramedic, and I will examine him and make sure that he's clear to go back on the field and kind of encourage him to go out there. He didn't go out there, but I told the mom, I said, you want him to go back out on the field,
Yeah.
right? It's okay for him to come off, lick his wounds or whatever, but he's got to go out for another play. He's got to, because otherwise this is all he's going to remember when he gets home. So I love that you took the trip
I do
because
I do this radio show and podcast every week now, and one of my employees co-hosts it with me, and she was just telling this story last week. Her son plays basketball, and he went out and missed 7 threes in a game, and they're leaving, and she didn't say it, but she's thinking, dude, why do you keep shooting the ball? And he goes back in the next game and buries 7 threes, right? And asked him like, how'd you do it? And he goes, well, I just kept shooting, right? Like that mindset, that mentality. I coach my son's soccer team. We had a game yesterday. Same thing. There's this kid on the team. He can't score a goal to save his life during practice. He misses, he shoots it high, he shoots it wide. Everybody makes fun of him. So we had a penalty kick yesterday, and I said, take the shot. And he missed. He missed, and everybody is screaming and yelling, and then he got the rebound and scored, right? And that whole mindset of just keep shooting, just keep shooting. It's cool to see kids get that. And it's one of those things, we talk about resilience as a business owner, but I think when you put those labels on it, like the pain and suffering gets minimized, like the emotional side of missing another shot, the emotional side of getting burned by another employee or client or vendor, it really minimizes the emotional impact of that. But, strap your helmet back on, get back out there and get back out on the field.
and I think that like when I look at my clients and the law firm owners I'm working with, and I look at their journey, the thing that causes their journey to go the slowest is the time in between each failure.
Yep.
Like I know I need to hire an attorney. I hire an attorney, I put him on staff, and for whatever reason, it doesn't work out. After 3 months, they leave, I fire them, we part ways or whatever. Then is this period of meaning where the law firm owner decides to make this mean something about them and
Yep.
their ability to find good talent and hire somebody and train them and get them to be productive. And they start to think like, oh, I can't do this. I'm not like, I have to be a solo. I cannot hire another attorney because, I clearly can't, I'm not good at this. And if we can just get better at saying, hey, I already made the decision, I need an attorney. This one didn't work out. I'm going to take a lesson learned from it, and I'm going to go hire another one and not have that point in between. We would move so much faster. And it's
let's
the
let's
same
take the
idea.
business piece out of it, right? I'm inadequate as a business owner, I'm inadequate as an entrepreneur, I'm inadequate as an employer. Take all of that out of it. If you take that L, right? The employee, the attorney leaves and you go back to where you were, you also suck as an attorney. I'm sorry, but that's what, like, in our profession, you're not good. If you get that little burn and it scares you off for months, you lack the resilience to be a good lawyer, not business owner, not entrepreneur, not employer. I think that's really important. Here's what makes you good as a lawyer: getting your ass kicked. just like in anything else, right? If you step up to the plate and you hit a home run at your first at bat, you have no clue. You learned nothing, whether it's natural skill or whether it's luck, fine. I would rather work with or work for or employ the person who has struck out 1,000 times before that first home run. So the question is, how quickly can you get through those first 1,000 strikeouts, right? So yeah, I think it's, and don't get me wrong, I sound like a tough guy when I say all that, and I get it. Like I had to learn this the hard way too. But I don't want to say that you become numb to it. I don't think it's that, but I think it's more you learn the lesson more quickly and you move on to the next one. Because once you do start to hit some singles and doubles and you start to really beat this analogy to death, and once you start to see a little bit of success and you can start to build some momentum from that, you're never going back to the way it was. Like you're not going to stop. You may slow down, but you're going to speed right back up again. And I think once you get a taste of how much better things can be, you'll never go back. I will never go back to being that solo attorney with one or two employees. I've seen how good it is in the alternative. I've seen how many more people we help. I've seen how much better the business runs. I've seen how much better we practice law for our clients, and I will not go back to the way that it was. But I had to get kicked in the face 100 times before that.
Now, earlier in your story, I love that, and I even was going to add one more thing to it, something about Michael Jackson and why he had like the most three-pointers, and I don't know the metrics on it, but basically the way it goes is when he was asked about it, he said, "I took the most shots." Right? It wasn't that he made more shots than anybody else; it was that he took more chances than anybody else, and that's why he was the best three-point shooter. But when you were saying your story earlier, you said, I finally got to the point where I realized that I just need to pour jet fuel on and then we took off, right?
Mhm.
What does that look like to you? To me, I'm sitting here and I had this epiphany going into, we just ran the Law Firm Growth Summit, and we had 1,400 law firm owners and other associated personnel with law firms that joined us virtually, and we had 3 days with over 60 sessions for them. And I opened with a session where I basically demonstrated what would I do if I'm a non-attorney, right? So I'm not a lawyer. I'm in your wife's camp. I'm an accountant, and I help law firm owners, and I work with a lot of them, but I'm not an attorney. So if I were to start a law firm, go out to Arizona where there's a sandbox project allowing non-attorneys to own a firm. If I were to start a law firm, what would it look like? How would I build it? And I basically showed them how I would assemble a team as an entrepreneur, as somebody, buying a business or owning a business and not being able to produce the work. And I think that the missing piece is just the distinction of being an investor in your business and spending some capital to take the investment into your firm that's necessary to produce the team required, and not trying to grow into it by, oh, I maxed myself out, so now I'm going to try to hire somebody, because that doesn't seem to work, or that seems to be the really slow process of doing it. So that's, for me, on my observation and just looking at my clients, is you need a little capital and you need a plan, and you can execute so much faster than if you just try to grow into the next thing. Is
And
that what you mean by jet fuel?
yeah, you actually don't need that much capital, right?
Correct.
We bring an associate on and we may onboard them for 30 days before they touch any live files. But at day 31, they're at least break even, at least, right? And we're going to monitor that pretty closely. The challenge with this industry is it's beat into us for 3 years in law school that this is a profession, and it is a profession that is so highly regulated that we can't be entrepreneurial. We're taught to only see the downside. We're taught to issue spot. We're taught to see potential problems. That is the opposite of what entrepreneurs do. Entrepreneurs are trained to see opportunities. And it turns out that if you can combine them to spot the threat and turn it into an opportunity, that's a little bit of jet fuel right there. But the profession is so broken. I'll give you an example. I do some like small group coaching stuff, and we were talking on, we had a meeting on Friday, and I proposed the idea of adding ancillary services to your law firm. So like right now, RV sales are taking a huge hit, and who's the guy from The Profit that owns Camping World? Marcus Lemonis,
Hmm.
right? Camping World, which is the largest retailer of RVs in the country, generates more profit from the sales of its membership to the campgrounds, the Good Sam membership thing, right? So it's not RV sales, it's not even RV service, it's not RV financing, it's not RV repairs and maintenance. It is the membership that generates huge profits for that business, right? So I was giving an example of like, what could you do in your business? And the immediate response is, well, I don't know. I mean, we're pretty regulated, and there's only so many things. Like, it's really tough for us to add stuff on because we're lawyers. And it's like, here we are. Like, the entrepreneur is saying, let's find more ways to help our clients. And there's a very legitimate concern that the bar rules may not let us do that. That is so broken. That is such a horrible thing for clients. And one of the reasons why Arizona is going to be so far ahead on this is because they're allowing people to help their clients in more ways. That a similar thing happened on a Pennsylvania solo listserv recently. Somebody went in and said, "I want to launch a newsletter. What are some recommendations that you have?" And the first three responses are, make sure there's a disclaimer that it's not legal advice, and make sure that people know that you're not telling, like, it was all rule driven. And it's like, no, this person is looking for marketing help. They're looking for ways to bring in more referrals or convert more clients or get their name out there. And the best you can come up with is make sure your audience, make sure you assume your audience is stupid enough that they don't know that your newsletter isn't full of legal advice. Are you freaking kidding me? But this is how we're trained. This is what we're taught. So yeah, to think, oh, I should go borrow some money or bring on an investor to start a business with that as the backdrop, with that as your mindset, it ain't gonna happen. So that's, if you talk about where I think we started pouring jet fuel on things, it's when I made that transition back to being an entrepreneur. Where the and it for us, it actually aligned pretty well with the pandemic. I think that's where you and I first met. Is remember Clubhouse? Remember when that was
Yep.
the thing at the beginning of the pandemic, right?
Yep.
I said at that moment, when the biggest law firm in town was laying off half their staff because of the shutdowns, I sent a message to my team and I said, we're going to do everything we can to make this work. And as long as we focus on if our clients do better, we will do better, we'll be fine. That has to be our entire, how do we help them? And if we can find ways to help them, then we help ourselves. And since then, our law firm has 8x'd. I think we're 8 times the size that we were in 2019. I haven't done the math recently, but I
And
should.
that's how you ended up going and doing the employee retention credit stuff, because any other law firm wouldn't have even seen that as an opportunity. It's so much risk, and that's an accountant's job, and all those other excuses. Users said, "Hey, how can we help our clients? Look, we can help our clients get money, and we can, and as a byproduct, we can grow our firm, make money off of it. So it's a win."
Yep. Yeah. Completely different outlook, I think. I think so many lawyers, this is another example. Like when I started my career, how much work is done to avoid getting sued for malpractice versus what's doing in the client's best interest, right? We're so concerned with covering our own asses on things that if we really did what was actually in the client's best interest, we wouldn't need to be so worried about that. But the way that we paper our files and the way that we document things and the way that we make sure that clients know this is what we told them and we didn't tell them this other thing, it's like the bare minimum that we can do to avoid getting sued when really we should be thinking more like, well, I don't like there's lawyers that are afraid to make referrals to other professionals, like financial advisors or insurance people, because well, if it doesn't work out, that's going to come back on me. Okay, then make a better referral, do a better job for
Right.
your clients. But we've got this outlook of avoid the negative rather than pursue the positive. And if you haven't been able to tell by now, it frustrates the heck out of me because it's actually you're actually making your clients worse off with that outlook.
Absolutely. And it's not just lawyers that have this challenge. So in my own, business mastermind with my coach, they did for one of our in-person events a few years ago, they had a whole talk on are you playing to win or are you playing not to lose?
Yeah.
And it's really like, if you're playing defense, you're not going to win the game.
Hmm.
You need to play offense to win the game. And that's the same thing that you're talking about is like we always need to be looking at, how do I go and go the extra mile? How do I do more? How do I do better? How do I and if you're just trying to avoid the problems, you're just trying to avoid getting in trouble, that you're never going to grow that way. Like, and that's the same conversation of fear. Like, what are you afraid of? We're always afraid of something not doing what we wanted it to do. But if you give into the fear, you're guaranteeing you're not going to do what you wanted to do.
Well, I think you mislabeled the fear. The fear is not that the thing will work out. The fear is what will people think of me when this doesn't work out? When I start running those new ads and they don't work. If I go and hire this person and I've got to fire them 30 days from now. If I go buy the house that I want to live in and I'm worried that someday I won't be able to make the payments and it's going to get foreclosed on, what are people going to think of me? That's always the big fear here. And it's easier said than done to actually get over that. But that's always the concern. Like it's easier not to stick your neck out because even though I don't accomplish anything, I don't fail and nobody's going to judge me. Versus if I go out and I step up to the plate, I may strike out and there may be people watching. Now the irony is people aren't watching and they don't care. But we've got this voice in our head that says, "Oh, everybody's watching me. Everybody's going to see this. Everybody's going to see what we're doing." And that's where I come back to talking about failure all the time. It's like building that muscle is what really was huge for me. Like failing over and over and over and over again, it's become a lot easier because I realized nobody cares. Nobody's judging me, or the people that are judging me will never understand me, and I don't want them in my life anyway. And I got to be okay with that. And again, easier
And then
said
not
than
driving
done.
three Porsches, which one of them is broken down.
Yeah. Well, two of them are broken now, but yeah, that was.
Point taken. Point taken. All right, I want to transition for the last few minutes of our conversation because we haven't talked about your book,
Yep.
and I wanted to get you on here because I think it's a great title. I think I haven't got my hands on it yet. I will, but I think it's a wonderful thing that you're doing. I don't know if you know my story of why I started my business, but I just like you, I believe that business ownership, entrepreneurship is the path to financial freedom, and not just financial freedom, but true wealth. And my our mission statement is to empower all people with wealth creation so that this and future generations can lead a better life. And it's because my grandfather made some really wise decisions, and he came from Nazi Germany with nothing, and was a business owner, and then but took the extra money from his business, got together with some cousins, and bought an apartment building on the west side of Manhattan. And that apartment building, he was able to when I became an adult and I went to buy a house, he gifted all 36 of his grandchildren with the down payment of their first home purchase, including me, and it didn't make a dent in his wealth.
Hmm.
It meant nothing. Like it was something that he was happy to do, excited to do, and he was very philanthropic. He built the synagogue that he prayed in. Like, he just made good decisions, but they were built off of previous good decisions, and it was all
And
fueled
you talk
by.
about taking a threat. You talk about taking a problem or a bad moment and turning it into something positive. It's hard to think of a lower moment in anybody's life. Like they got to escape Nazi Germany and come to America, and that sucks. And I'm displaced, and I'm going to be away from my family. To turn it that guy was an entrepreneur. I love it.
Yeah. But I looked at that, and I had said, as the recipient of that, how did that change my view of my grandfather? And how did that change my financial life? Where my friends are spending 10 years saving for their first down payment on their home, I'm funding my IRA, and I'm
Yep.
building wealth from the asset that I bought when I was 20 years old.
Yep.
And that just empowers the next generation to be better. And you have the ability to do that by creating wealth, and the way to do that is to succeed in business. So let's start here. Let's start with figuring out how to make you a cash flowing monster out of your business, which Adam
So
said, pour
there's
jet fuel on it.
yeah, but well, here's the other part, and you should write I'm assuming your grandfather isn't around, but if he is or isn't, you're going to have to write him another thank you note because he didn't like the money is one piece of it, right? Yes, you had an unfair advantage because of that. And that was the term that we used in the green room. I had an unfair advantage, not because of money, although I guess we did have some, but because of the mindset and the ability to make money. The lessons that my parents taught me were actually more valuable than any amount of cash they could have handed me, right? So that is the other part of what your grandfather taught you, or even what your dad taught you when you go and buy the board games, right? And you got to figure out how to repackage it and repurpose it and market and sell that thing. That skill is worth more than the down payment on your house. So that's what the book was all about. Is my parents as a third generation entrepreneur, I learned lessons from my parents and I learned lessons on my own the hard way that I was teaching my kids. And I thought, why don't we just get some of this down on paper? Like let's share this with the world. And the unfair advantage that I had, let me share some of that with people. So that was the point of the book is yes, the business exists to make money and let us never forget that. But it's also there for me to have an impact and it's there for me to spend my time the way that I want to spend it. So tomorrow morning, today's the first day of summer vacation for my kids. Tomorrow morning, we're heading out of town. We're going to Legoland for a few days, right? The one in New York. Um, if my business didn't function as a business, I wouldn't be able to do that. Or I would be there and I would be on my phone the whole time, checking emails, texting clients, whatever. It's not going to be that way. I'm going to be able to go and actually enjoy this trip. And the whole way there, I can listen to whatever stupid radio station they want to listen to. And while we're there, we can do whatever the activities are that they want to do. Yes, because we have the money for it, but more importantly for me, because we've got the time to do it. So I make sure, like when we talk about success in business, it's financial freedom, but it's also freedom of time and it's having that impact. And here's the big distinction is I think many of us started our businesses to have more of those things. More time, more money, more impact. Except the opposite of that is usually true. For the person who's self-employed, for the person who starts the business, they're making less money than they would make if they just went and got a job at Target based on the hours that they're working. They don't have the freedom of time because they're working 7 days a week, and their impact is limited because when they run out of toilet paper in the office, they're the person that has to address that too, right? So we're very intentional in our family and in our business. Actually, yesterday, Sunday, we made our summer bucket list, and my 7-year-old daughter, well, she'll be 7 in 3 days, and my 13-year-old son and my wife and I wrote down all the things that we want to do this summer. It's only 12 weeks. We're trying to pack a lot in, but we're very intentional about the life that we want to live. The business can support that by making the money that we need. But the business actually does better the less that I work, which is a little backwards, I think, from how a lot of lawyers are used to thinking about it. Lawyers are used to, I want to make more money. I'd better get my billables from 1900 to 2000 this year. But it turns out that there's more than one way to go about that.
Yeah, I think it's, when you start to realize that the people in your business are your inventory that you're selling and it's not you, that that's when you can really unlock the true success and really get yourself out of it. And
Yep.
you can be as involved as you want or as not involved as you want, but you have to make that distinction, that separation if you want to truly be able to unlock your freedom and step away. And I love that you're doing that. And I want to know more about your trip because you're coming to my neck of the woods, see if there's any way that we might run into each other. But guys, everything your kids wish you knew about owning a business sounds like a great book. I'm going to pick up a copy myself and read it. I think you should too. We're going to link that up in the show notes. It's available on Amazon. Adam's done a great job, clearly, because it's hit #1 bestseller in its category on Amazon. But also, you can tell from this conversation that it's going to be, there's going to be stories in there that's going to be inspiring for you, and Adam clearly has accomplished some things that you probably wish that you did, and the only way to get there is to look for proof in the world that it's possible.
Yeah.
and then follow that proof. So this has been a great conversation. We probably could go for another hour. Unfortunately, we don't have another hour. And I also don't want to turn this into a Tim Ferriss podcast. So um, we're gonna end it here, but maybe we'll have Adam back to go into some more detail on some other stuff. But really great conversation, and I enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. And if you did, and this is the first time you're listening to the podcast, there's a subscribe button in your podcast player, and if you hit it, you'll get notified every time we release a new episode, which we do every single week on Thursday. We've been doing it consistently since early 2019, and we don't intend to stop anytime soon. We've got over almost 500 episodes in, there for you to binge on, and a lot of amazing guests, just like Adam, here on the show. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we can't wait to see you next week. Adam, thanks for being here.
Thank you. This is great.